The All-22's been studied. The film's been picked apart. The reviews are in. The offensive line was exactly as bad as you thought they were the other night in Cleveland. Good afternoon to you. Good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show that comes your way every weekday afternoon. It'll be Steelers versus Bengals this weekend in Cincinnati. And as I see it, not just the entire matchup, but the entire remainder of the season is going to be influenced by one factor above all others, and that's whether or not they block. I hate to be overly simplistic because I hate when other people do that. Football's a complicated sport with a lot of different layers, a lot of different humans involved, personalities in addition to players. And the coaching decisions, as we saw in Cleveland, can be massive, in that case for the negative and other games for the positive. But this team won't go anywhere with this line performing as it does unless it adjusts. Now, I'm going to put in great big parentheses here that it won't adjust. Okay, this is important to note, I think, because when you're doing a segment on a specific subject like how they should adjust to having a bad offensive line, and you know for a fact that they're not going to do that, it feels a little bit unhealthy. But here we go anyway, end parentheses. I don't know that the Steelers have their 5 best personnel on the field. I really don't. I don't doubt that there isn't anyone more capable at left tackle on the roster than Dan Moore. I don't doubt that there isn't anyone more capable than Isaac Seumalo at left guard. Right guard, I think we've seen quite a bit of good things of Mason McCormick, some that haven't been so good. Broderick Jones, I don't even know where to start on that one. And then there's the center position, where Zach Frazier, he gets all the raves. The people on the inside love him. People on the outside love him. Speaking of grades and everything, he's an A+ guy. Okay. And here's my problem. Ryan McCollum was the center for 2.5 games while Frazier was out. And McCollum in that span, and the offense in that span, ran the ball better than they did at any other point. And you know what else they did? They ran the ball up the middle. And Frazier was not good, did not grade well in Cleveland. So do you do that? No, of course they're not going to do that. Should you do that? Seems like a fair question to bring up. Should you bench Broderick Jones, even though Brod is, first round pick, you traded up to get him and everything else? Well, you benched him once. Remember? If Troy Fautanu was still healthy, guess what? Fautanu would be the starter. And we'd have forgotten that Brod even exists. Don't let that one slip your mind. So what do you do? What do you do about this line? Mike Tomlin was asked that at his press conference today. Not about the line, but just about short yardage offense, which I see as pretty much an intertwined thing, right? Tomlin said, and I quote directly, the following 5 words: "We need to get better." That's what you're going to get. That's why you're not going to get an adjustment. This was Broad today over on the South Side.
Honestly, really, it's just stand on the right track. We've been doing well this far. I don't feel there's nothing that need to be changed. We just got to continue to focus and chase that 1% every day and getting better and just keep stacking days. Honestly, that's all it is.
Yep, he doesn't see it either. He doesn't want to change anything. Okay, fine. Have it your way. But you'd better come out there in Cincinnati and be a lot better. Because this team isn't going to go anywhere. And this defense is going to keep getting chipped away the way we've seen in recent seasons, where they look like a house of blaze, for the first half, and then they start being out there for too many snaps and too much time of possession gets lost, 3 and outs, and they're right back on the field again. And then you've got that complex, convoluted, really, schedule that's coming up in December. all of this could, I don't want to be the downer here, but all of this could fall apart, and all of this could do that based on how those 5 guys perform. Right now, that's a pretty ominous thing to be thinking about. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck over on the South Side. Steelers had their first practice of Cincinnati week. Today, Mike Tomlin had his press conference today, same day, a little bit unusual. And the subject du jour was the red zone, specifically the offense's issues in the red zone. Chris, what are they looking at, especially from the offensive perspective now?
Well, I mean, it's good to know that they treated a mini bye like a mini bye. They did some self-reflection, and the worst thing that they about this team right now is probably the way they play in the red zone, especially on offense. And so the fact that was the main point of discussion that's a good start. And he said that was what they identified, and that this week is about applying what they identified. And when asked specifically about, like, what is it? Is it the quarterback? Is it the play calling? Is it the offensive line? He said that there are multiple components to the discussion. So it's a whole lot of everything, which is pretty much what I've seen on film too. So
yeah, it's on film, it's in front of your eyeballs, and it's in the numbers too. The Steelers rank 30th out of 32 teams in red zone efficiency at 44.74%. Over the last 3 games, if those have seemed especially depressing to you in that regard, they're at 40%. Now, the Bengals, at the extreme opposite, are the 3rd best as opposed to the 3rd worst in the NFL in converting in the red zone. They're at 69.7%. By the way, the number 1, if you're curious, is Baltimore at 78.7. Dude, that's just a factory.
That doesn't, and it's interesting that they couldn't score in that 2-point conversion
against the Steelers
because it feels like it's like the numbers dictate. It almost feels like it's automatic because of what they can do with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, by the way, wasn't on the field for that. I know we've been down that road, but But looking at the Bengals, though, I mean, they got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Like, I understand they're probably not as strong at running back since they don't have Joe Mixon anymore. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, I'd put them up with any quarterback receiver duo in the league. Like, I don't think that's hyperbole. They're insane together and have been ever since their days at LSU. So when you have that, it almost feels like it's automatic to me.
Well, the Steelers have been anything but automatic. And when you look at what they've done, once they've gotten over the 20, it's here comes that word again. It's depressing. It's the kind of thing that makes you think, and not just the 6 field goal game, which they won, but in general, I have felt like even once they're inside the 10, there isn't really much happening there. And let me throw out here, because I know Russell Wilson has a history of being really good in the red zone. Okay, so I'm not numb to this. But I also know that when the Steelers got inside the 10 with Justin Fields, didn't those feel automatic to you? Like, if he just looked, he didn't like what he saw. Okay, I'm just going to run it in. And it looked and felt really easy. Is that something that maybe they could do with the Fields package?
Well, that is something that I think they could do, but I think what you identify there is kind of indicative of a bigger problem there, is that in order to score in the red zone, Justin Fields had to improvise. They're not scoring with the actual play that was
intended
called.
Targets, yeah.
They're I mean, we've seen it. It feels like every time they have 1st and goal on the 8 or the 9 or the 10 yard line, what's the first play? It's a handoff up the middle to Najee Harris. There's
For
no
1.5 yards.
and,
Yes.
yeah, and it's because teams kind of know what's coming at this point. Okay, it's first and goal. It's first and long, in terms of first and goal. And so what are they going to do? They're going to play conservative on first down, see what they can get, try to get a little bit closer, and then take their chances on second down and third down. And it's interesting to me because it's not like Russell Wilson was a great red zone quarterback like back in his heyday in Seattle. He was a good red zone quarterback last year when he was benched at the end of the season.
Yes. Yeah, he's always been efficient down there. But in order to be efficient, Chris, and this almost feels like I'd be opening up a whole separate can here. Why not just use your best players? Why not just use your best skill players? What are you doing with this offense in general, not just red zone, but in general, and saying, let's see if we can target Michael Pruitt, or let's see if we can, make something out of Connor Hayward, even though nothing's happening out of Connor Hayward. What are they doing here, Chris? What is so wrong about? I mean, remember when they really, really needed a touchdown on third down, down by the goal line? Who did they go to? They went to Pat Freiermuth. You know why? Because that's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, then you have other plays like the 2-point conversion attempt against the Browns where you throw a fade to Cordero Patterson.
What was that even? Has that been talked about enough?
Yeah.
What was that? He had to have been schemed to be completely open.
Which he wasn't.
Which he wasn't.
Yeah. Which he wasn't. So that's just got to be a ball that's just never thrown. There's got to, and plus, if that is the first read, like you have to have a better play call. And I think, Arthur Smith, I think, had his worst game as a play caller as the Steelers offensive coordinator against the Browns. And so you'd like to see, okay, there's got to be something different here. There's got to be a new wrinkle that he throws in to anything else, whether that's personnel decisions, whether that's play calling. I would like to see personnel decisions be the thing that changes, because I wholeheartedly agree that we can't be having 13 personnel out there, which is 3 tight ends, and the one receiver on the field is Ben Skoranek. Or if you're in the opposite and it's 3 receivers and 1 tight end, that the one tight end is Michael Pruitt. Like, you have to have your best players on the field, target those best players, use the best players. I think that's a big part of it. But again, I think when you look at all of the things that are going wrong with this offense right now, that's just a symptom. Like that's not like, oh, if they fix this one thing, everything's going to be hunky-dory, everything's going to be fine. No, there are problems everywhere.
There are problems, and as mentioned in the opening portion of this show, the problems mostly start up front. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
For today's J1Q, let's head down to South Florida.
What's up, Dan Robb from Miami? Got the national media all of a sudden want to talk about us in the Super Bowl. Miss me with that. That's been the plan all along. Got a lot of players on the team. Mike, Russell, Jackson, Elliott, Queen got discarded by the other team. How do you feel like that energy, that grittiness will fuel our team going forward, even though all this fake faux hype from the media? How do you think that Mike T and that energy of being discarded from their past teams is going to fuel our team going forward?
You know what's funny, Rob? I always want, like reflexively, to dismiss that as a factor. I mean, you played for one team and now you're playing for another team. What did you think? You were going to be the one guy that, out of 100 who stays with the same team through the whole career? Franco Harris wore a Seattle Seahawks helmet. It's rare. But it is a factor. It really is. The week before the Steelers played the Ravens, the week before, I was talking to Patrick Queen. This was after the game, and I made a joke with him because he had played really well. that day. This was in Landover, Maryland. And I said, that was just a warm-up for the Ravens, right? And he goes, oh, you know me too well. I was kidding. He wasn't. And that's what you're talking about here. Football players, maybe more than any professional athletes in team sports, they go scouring for fuel. They'll dig into the depths, even of online stuff. Remember the stuff that Broderick Jones was doing last year on Twitter when he was finding everybody who criticized him. He was searching his name, and then he was, look at that. I'll show you. If you were out here, I would do this to you and whatever else. They're looking for something. They're looking for that extra spark. They're looking for what they think might give them an edge on the field. Now, what's interesting about that is that on the morning of the Baltimore game, according to Queen himself, he woke up, he was expecting to be all fired up and everything else, and he wasn't. He said, I was just at peace. It was just a football game. It was just our guys against their guys. And he went out there and he performed the way he did. So the next time there's a similar situation, and of course there is going to be a next game against Baltimore and his first back in Baltimore, he's probably going to go through some of the same stuff. You know why? Because he wants to, Rob. He wants to. They live for this stuff. They're constantly seeking out whatever advantage they can possibly have over the opponent in a physical, passionate sport. Great question, man. Great question. I appreciate it. We'll be back with another one of these double shot shows tomorrow before the Thanksgiving break, meaning Thanksgiving break for the show.